Hey guys, it's Dawn. It's your Aggie Project Manager, and it is our second lunch and learn. I am incredibly nervous, so settle my nerves. Of course, once I get into my vein of talking about what I absolutely love, I'm sure I'll be fine. At least that's what they tell me. But nervousness is a good thing. Let me say that because some people think that you see people like myself or other people and that they don't get nervous and they just kind of hop out here and everything's fine. Truth is, anything that you care about, anything that you're passionate about, anything that is something you want to see successful, something that you've bought into and you believe in, yeah, you kind of get a little nervous about doing it. So nervousness is normal. I want to normalize that for people who go, I can never do that. You can. You will be nervous, okay? Keep going. All right. So that being said, I don't want to lose too much time. So if you haven't already shared the broadcast, I know some of my friends and family will be watching later. So hi to everybody. Thank you so much for sharing. Last time we did a Q&A at the end. Instead of, I still want to answer questions at the end, but to ensure that you are okay and that when a question pops in your head, if you're anything like me, you kind of want to ask your question right then because it's in your mind and you might forget it in 10 minutes or 15 minutes. So do me a favor, drop your questions in the chat as we go along. And then when I get to the end, my team here will kind of post questions back for me so that I can go back and answer your questions. Deal? That's what we're going to do. All right. So that being said, we're going to hop into today's lunch and learn because I want to fast track through some things, give you some high level project management tips, and then we'll kind of keep moving. All right. So that being said, if you missed our last lunch and learn, it was earlier this month. It was our first one, and we had a lot of fun. I want to recap in our beginning just kind of what project management is to me. If I were to come to your organization, come to your church, do a consult, high-level project management includes the following. It is the management of people. It's the management of processes, the management of projections. Those are going to be your measurable metrics. It's the management of productivity. I believe in holding people accountable. It's a thing for me, holding people accountable. So product management of productivity. Are we doing what we're supposed to be doing it? Are we doing it when we're supposed to be doing it? Are we delivering on time? Task management. And last but not least, the management of present day. All right. What needs to happen today, like right now, in order for us to be successful in the future? All right. So those are the areas on any given day in project management you're going to touch. You're going to touch people, you're going to touch processes, you got to touch your projections, kind of where are we, let's gauge our metrics, got to touch productivity, of course, and then always check in every day. It's a present day thing, all right? So even if whatever you're trying to do is 5 years from now, there's probably something that you can do, you should be doing today to manage what we're going to do in 5 years. All right, so today I'm so excited because we're gonna kind of dive into what I call assessments and adjustments. This is huge for me because I think in projects, in releases, in launches, in organizations, we forget to check back in. We forget to kind of do what we should be doing with our bodies, right? Annual check-ins, quarterly check-ins, whatever that is, constantly assessing, are we where we are? Do we need to make adjustments? This applies in your businesses. This applies in your churches. This applies in your nonprofit organization. But fun fact, this applies in your relationships too, right? You should constantly be assessing and making adjustments as needed if you want it to work. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about assessments. There are 3 areas that I'm going to kind of give, again, a very high level overview on what we assess and how we assess it. So the assessment I want you guys to consider, hold on, let's make sure we get there. All right, so the assessment that I want you guys to, the areas I want you guys to look at assessing are 3. I tend to alliterate. If you missed the first one, I alliterate almost everything. It helps my mind function. My brain is slightly weird, or so I've been told, but I don't think I'm that weird, but it happens. All right, so assessments. Assessments happen, and so as assessments happen, these are things that we've got to think through and process through and all of that. We've got to assess purpose. We've got to assess processes. We've got to assess people. Got to assess purpose. Got to assess process. Got to assess people. All right, so if you know me, you know I have OCD. And assessments at the top has too many S's because I was so excited That is gonna drive me nuts. All right, I'm not gonna change it right now, but I notice it and it's bothering me. All right, assessment. Assess purpose. Why are we here? So let me tell you, an organization, or every organization in the pandemic had to do this. But one of the biggest organizations that had to do it the most, that's near and dear to my heart, is the church. The church had to assess purpose. Why are we here? Let's not forget why we're here. The church has kind of had to have that ongoing thing, constantly assessing why are we here? Let's not forget why we're here. Are we here to build businesses? Are we here to build daycares? Are we here to bring the gospel message of Jesus Christ to a dying world? Why are we here? And whatever we're doing, how is that the catalyst, the vehicle, the mobility of how we get that out, right? Take the pandemic, and the game of church changed tremendously. Why? Because I don't care what ethnic group you are in, I don't care what your age was, I don't care where you were, church changed because you were used to going to some sort of physical building, whether it was for an hour or whether it was for 6 hours, right? You were used to going somewhere to talk about God, to worship God, and you did it with people. It was something you did in a congregation. That's the church, right? You did it with a group of people. And so the game changed. The game absolutely changed. So the church had to go rethink, okay, first of all, why are we here? What's our purpose? Have we lost sight of our purpose? And how do we do that here? So we have to assess purpose, but not only do we have to assess purpose, we have to assess the process. Now, the reason why you'll notice I have people, but people are last, and I'm going to tell you why. Because often we run when something's not functioning right or when we think we can fix it. We run straight to the person that we think are responsible. And sometimes we are attacking people, removing people, changing people when people are not the problem. The process is. The process is broken, or the process is non existent, right? Sometimes I think we expect things to happen that are not going to happen by osmosis. They're not going to happen by themselves. They're not going to just figure it out, that there should be a process, because if there's a process, I can hold people accountable. I can do evaluations. I can do a couple of different things if the process is not broken. But if the process is broken, I might be blaming people for a process that needs to be fixed. So that being said, first question is, do I even have a process for my purpose? We're offline. Yep. We're gone. Oh, yeah, I'm back. Sorry. It says I was offline. I'm back. Sorry. So process. The reason why processes are important, and I'm in the heart, in the thick of writing processes for quite a few organizations right now, but the reason why processes are so important to me and why processes matter is because it brings structure, it brings strategy to whatever you're working on. And so it tells you kind of your step by step on what we're going to do and how we're going to do that, how we're going to get there. If you don't have a process, here's a fun fact, and this is what I do. So feel free to call me, set up a consult, and we'll set something up. But you need processes. Hear me, leaders. Hear me, business owners. Hear me, church leaders, pastors, whatever organization you're in or how it works. It's not going to work without processes. If you've ever wondered why you have such an incredibly high turnover, and yes, churches have turnover for 1,001 reasons, but not just churches, just businesses in general. If you have a high turnover, I would strongly encourage you to look at your processes first before you start blaming just the people. It was the kind of people we were hiring. It was the kind of this or it was that, and it's people driven. I would encourage you to look at your processes. After you've already assessed that, hey, we're still on track and we are executing the purpose on why we exist. So, for example, if I exist to make hamburgers and we start making nothing but tacos, I probably should assess my purpose and go, wait, it's a taco shack, but we make nothing but burgers. We've gotten off target, right? But once I've assessed my purpose, I should probably look at my process to try to figure out what happened and why. Processes matter. So if you don't have processes, I can't stress this enough, you need to build them. Now, in building processes, without getting too far into the weeds, Processes have to be functional. They have to make sense. They have to be things that are attainable and reasonable. So when you're thinking through a process, you should probably think with the end in mind. What's my end goal? And then how am I going to get there? What do I need to get there? Who are the people that I need to get there? Processes involve task owners and your measurable metrics. That's when you start to get into the weeds of that. Don't want to get too deep there, but those are the things that you need to be thinking about when I think process. Who's going to do it? How are they going to get it done? How much time is it going to take them? How much time should it take them? What do I need them to do? All of those things are going to be in the weeds of your processes. Take time to go through your processes, right? Because that's where you're going to invest a lot of time, but it's going to be worth it in the end, right? It may get tedious. That's why you hire people like me, because it's what we do. But it may get tedious, but the process is necessary. You put the process in place. Now we can go to assessing people. We can go to evaluations. I am huge, absolutely huge on evaluations. Evaluations are very important because it's a twofold thing between the owner or the leader or the supervisor or the manager and their employee. Even in volunteer environments, because a lot of churches are volunteer based, you still want to do evaluations. You still want to do assessments of your volunteers, of your volunteer leaders, of your volunteer people. Why? Because you want to make sure it's a wellness checkup. You want to make sure they're okay. You want to make sure that what you both set out to do in a job descriptions go back to processes, right? In your processes, there should be a job description for everybody. Again, trying not to get into the weeds too bad, but in your processes, there should be a job description for everybody. If there's a job description for everybody, then those people can know what they're supposed to do. So by the time you get to evaluating them out of that process, here's your job description. This is what we should be doing. So when we get to the person and we get to evaluations, now we can talk intelligently about, okay, so here was our process. This is what you were supposed to do. This is how you're doing it. You're doing an amazing job. Hey guys, affirmation goes a long way. An attaboy does more sometimes than raises. Money talks. Don't get that twisted. It does talk. But you're not giving raises every day. Let's be realistic. You're not giving raises every day. You're not giving bonuses every day. But you will improve employee team morale if you are affirming your team along the way. When they have a great day, celebrate that. Right? So when you're assessing people, let's assess wellness. How are they doing? Is it working? Please be okay asking the hard questions. Is it working? It may not be working. My friend says she's going to get me a shirt that says, and that's okay. Because that's my answer in this time of my life for everything. Whatever it is, and that's okay. So if it's not working in your assessment, if you figure out George is not the person for that, okay, then that's okay. That's absolutely okay. It's okay for you guys to come to that you've given George a process, you've given George purpose, you've given George process, and now is the time to assess George the person. Does he fit in that thing? And so assessment is huge. You get assessments by doing evaluations. You get assessments by regular conversation. Don't make everything so super formal. Can I give you that for free? As an Aggie project manager, I get as much done as I get done with people because every conversation is not task driven. There is some personality interwoven in that. How are you doing? How are things going? I might start talking about a project and we're nowhere near it. We're nowhere near the office. We're not in a Zoom. We're not in a Teams meeting. We might be at Chili's or we might be, I like hole-in-the-wall restaurants personally. So we might be at some no-name restaurant or a restaurant that is indigenous to where I live. And we might just be sitting and talking, and it might be one of those, by the way, I was thinking about the project we're working on. I'm good at that, right? And it's interwoven into an everyday conversation. When you assess people, sometimes you get to assess them along the way. For those that may or may not be Christians, it doesn't really matter, but it applies here. So one of the things that Jesus often used to do with his disciples, and encourage you to read the Bible if you're not a believer. I am unapologetically a Christian, by the way, but that's neither here nor there. But one of the things Jesus often used to do was, okay, yeah, we had miraculous miracles. Yes, we healed people, but there were 12 dudes called his disciples that walked along with him along the way. And so they often had these along the way conversations. of things that they were assessing is how he got to test their hearts, how he got to hear their minds and their concerns and their worries, right? And so when you're assessing things, assess people in a few different ways. Sometimes it's a formal assessment. Those are necessary and should be documented and kept somewhere so that you can say, hey, we had this conversation. That's important. Even if you're doing it, guys, in the digital world via Zoom, record the Zoom. Let them know that you're recording and say, hey, we're going to record this session so that you and I have a touch point so that we can come back here and say, this is what we talked about a week ago, 2 weeks ago, 3 months ago, whatever. But you want to be able to do your assessments. You want to be able to assess people and give them that kind of concept. So we got assessments out the way. Assessments, if the PowerPoint comes back up and you get to see it, assessments, I'm going to say the same thing about adjustments too. Assessments should be timely. Do not assess somebody about something they did a year ago. Okay? Okay. All right. Got it. Got it. Okay. I think we're good. Timely assessments. I jokingly say that, but it's important. Again, I promise you, leaders, this applies everywhere. It applies in your business. It applies in your personal life. Churches, pastors, leaders, it applies in your churches. Addressing something timely matters, right? If a house is burning down, I don't have a week to wait to go call the fire people to come put the fire out. It's immediate. So gauge urgency, but it should always be timely. If it's not like deal breaker, it's not, we gonna die today. If it's not that, still schedule time. Make sure it's scheduled. I get fussed at about this when it comes to rest and relaxation. You got to schedule it. Schedule assessments regularly. Make sure it's a timely thing. If you have an event, I think you guys heard me fussing about staff meetings or Sunday debriefings. I think that's what I call them, Sunday debriefings. Because I see this so often, and if you haven't and can't hear it, church is my passion because it's probably one of the areas that has the least amount of project management, structure, and strategy as a whole. And it's not because they don't want it. A lot of them go to churches for the purpose of spreading the kingdom and the gospel, but they don't necessarily have business acumen. But business acumen is in their pews and somewhere. So this is the development. One of my friends would call it learning and development before I'm mistaken, say training, because they say you train dogs, but people are humans learning. Okay, got it, whatever. But so you take this and you make it structured and you assess people and you do it timely. Okay, so assessment should be timely. Assessments should be thorough. And when I say thorough, it should cover the good and the bad and the ugly and everything in between. It should have all of the pieces. And again, if you have any questions while I'm running through this, don't forget to drop your questions in the comments so that when I get to the back end, because I've got to get through this, I'm already at 12:23. All right, so I got to get through assessments, but they should be timely. They should be thorough. They should be thoughtful. I'm big on compassion. I can be firm. My friends say I can just actually be downright harsh. Y'all pray for me. I am Christian and corporate, all in the same hat. So I do have some corporate blue in my veins at times. But they should be thoughtful. And I try to be firm from the perspective of, if you know me, if you rock with me, I'm passionate about what I do. And I'm passionate about my purpose, but I'm also passionate about people that I partner with and whatever their purpose is. And so once you invite me into that on what your organization is trying to do and the level of excellence that you want to do it at and the goals that you're trying to reach, then we're going to plug in and we're going to plow through and we're going to, as I told a recent team, we're going to apply pressure, right? We're going to be great, but we're not going to get there. You don't get diamonds without pressure. We're going to apply pressure where needed and we're going to make it work. So assessments should be timely. Assessments should be thorough. Assessments should be thoughtful. Okay, now that we've made assessments, everything for me is functional. So if I do a causality, cause and effect, I assessed, now what do I do? Because sometimes we're great at assessing that it's broke, but we don't make the necessary changes to fix it. So we go to adjustments. All right. Real quick, when we talk about assessments, I almost forgot this slide. When we talk about assessments, they should be done and can be done. Like I told you, you can do them in a restaurant, you can do them in a casual conversation, but there are structured places where you can do assessments. If you have an event and there's a debriefing about it, you're debriefing on how the team is performing, how the event went. Did we get the number of people we expected to have? Did we, whatever our measurable metrics were, did we make the money? If it was a fundraising activity, did we make the money we were trying to make? Did we reach the people we were trying to reach? Whatever those debriefings are. Some people call them debriefings. You'll see in one of my bullets, it's postmortems. In certain cultures and businesses, categories are different. So some people call them debriefings. Some people call them postmortems. They're the same thing. It's that meeting after you do something where you talk about what happened. Good job, everybody. We made it. Now, what happened? That meeting, whatever you call that meeting, that's a great place for assessment, real time assessment of what we're doing and how it happened. Evaluations, we talked about those. I encourage staff meetings. Sometimes in corporate America, we can get incredibly busy. And sometimes staff meetings get canceled or postponed, and I get it. I'm here for adjustments because sometimes there are greater priorities and it just doesn't make sense to try to have a staff meeting. If I'll say this, if you have to cancel your scheduled staff meetings, make sure you either do one of two things: reschedule them and or find an alternative to get the information you would have gotten in a staff meeting. So say in the staff meeting, everybody was providing updates or whatever. Great time to say, hey, since we can't meet, I need everybody to email blah. I need you to email the following information. I need you to email or send to Cindy, whoever your person is, but compile the information you would have gotten in a staff meeting. Don't let that stuff slide because that's how projects quickly get off track. We cancel meetings. We don't provide the updates. We don't give the information that would have been exchanged in a staff or team meeting. And then 3 weeks later, we figure out we're behind the ball. So if you have to cancel a staff meeting, things happen. I am more understanding than people think. If things happen and you have to cancel your meeting, please make sure you reschedule or find a way to still get that information. Find a way to still, especially if you're the leader of the group, find a way to still check in on your team because staff meetings are not just about stats, right? Write that in the margin somewhere. Take it in your phone. Staff meetings are not just about stats. You're checking on people. You are checking on processes. Yes, you are checking on projections and all of the other stuff. You're checking on profit, whatever your staff meeting is about. Staff meetings are not just stats. There are people involved. Don't ever forget that. Okay? All right. Awesome. So that takes care of assessments. Let's move to adjustments. Now, we are going through, just so you know why I'm looking like slightly crazy. The presentation may be going in and out, and we're working on it, but I'm going to move on to the next one, which is adjustments. So adjustments are really easy for me to talk to because I believe in them. I practice them. All right, adjustments. So if I assess that it's not working, I need to change something. I had this conversation, and then I'm going to quickly move. I had this conversation earlier today as to whether or not the purpose of an organization changes. Is that an area of adjustment? And after bantering that thought with a couple of people, the reality is, and here, this is just Dawn, okay? Let me give that disclaimer. These are just Dawn's thoughts, Grace Applied's thoughts, okay? I think if an organization is built around solving a solution or a problem, a purpose, your purpose is you've identified a need of some sort and you gathered, assembled, hired, built, structured strategy around solving that purpose, then I don't think purpose changes. I think purpose evolves, but I don't think purpose changes. What I do think happens is sometimes there are organizations that are built for a purpose, but the purpose becomes served and it's no longer relevant. Then that's not a change in purpose. That's a change in a complete organization. That's maybe closing the doors and starting something new. And these are hard conversations that people don't like to have. So I get to be the one to interject the idea that maybe you've served your purpose, whatever that is. And if that's the case, that's okay. It's my story. And that's okay. If it's done and done, we've done what we came to do, or we've fixed our mission, whatever it was, whatever we set out to solve, we did it. Then we may need to look at our organization and go, does our organization still need to exist? Those are real questions. We don't have to get into that today. Those are real questions that sometimes it's a reorg. Our purpose hasn't changed, but our processes need to. That's a reorganization of your business or your church or your nonprofit or whatever. That's what we would call a reorg. Let's pull this back and reorganize some things. Our purpose is still here, but how we have it structured is all wrong and dated and old, and it worked 20 years ago or 50 years ago, but it doesn't work now. And so, that being said, depending on what that is. But adjustments when it comes to purpose may be simply asking, have we served our purpose? And if we have, what do we do now? That might be a real thing. Okay. Don't want to labor there too long because it can feel a little bit morbid to say, wait, we're going to die. We're going to die here. Not saying that we're going to die, but we are going to evolve. And just like we don't do things that cavemen used to do in our technology world, right? There are organizations and businesses that have served their purpose. So it's not a purpose adjustment. It's a we're done and it's time to do something else. So I think that's important. I think it's important to know if you are done, to know that you're done and be okay with that. It doesn't mean failure. It may mean accomplishment. It may mean accomplishment at such a level that it's like, cool, let's go tackle the next thing. Let's go build the next business. Let's go start the next organization because we did what we came to do. All right. So asking those purpose questions that may answer questions like, yeah, we've served our purpose and we're kind of done. That's not necessarily a bad thing. That might be a great thing to say you did a great job. Now let's move on, because when you lack purpose, you lack momentum, and now you're just kind of spinning your wheels, and that can be draining. All right. So adjusting purpose can come in one of two ways. The evolving. So let me shout out some people right here. Great place to do that. D-Star Graphics is who handles all of my lives, all of my Grace Supply video, media, flyers, anything and everything Grace Supply media related. D-Star Graphics is the business that I am a proud client of, right? So, but when she first started, it was just D-Star Graphics. I am the one that was, oh no. There's so much more here, right? We're going to be great. My son has even evolved it more and was like, it should be D-Star Productions. Like, we dream big. We dream real big. Unapologetically big. So, yeah, so now she legitimately, her business is D-Star Graphics and Media, but that came out of an evolution of, I thought I was just going to be doing this part of media or this part of graphics, and it just evolved. Her core purpose is still the same. So purposes, when we make adjustments, can be an evolution, a ballooning of who we are and what we do and all of that, right? Or it may be asking the tough questions of, have we served our purpose? And if we have, what now, right? So that's the adjustment on purpose. Adjustment of processes. So we've assessed if the process is great and it's working, then just maintain it, right? There's not a lot of adjustments to make. Maintain it, make sure it works, make sure you maintain the support structure to keep it working the way that it's working, whether that's partnership maintaining. So maybe you're partner with a vendor or a third party, and things are going well, then it's maintenance. It's relationship maintenance, it's partnership maintenance, contract maintenance. It's just kind of keeping things well tuned. It's like your car, right? That there's nothing wrong with your car, but you do have to do maintenance. You got to do oil changes. You might want to wash it a time or two, that kind of thing. You want to do maintenance on your processes. But maybe after your assessment, you realize our processes are non-existent. Well, then you go into writing mode, right? You go into, okay, let's build processes. Again, don't be afraid of that. You totally can hire somebody to come in and to do it, and this is what I highly recommend, if you don't want to just hire somebody to come in and do it, or you want to do that, and hire somebody to come develop your people. you want to build that team. And one of the ways to make employees better employees is you want to give them the tools and the resources to be better. And so if you bring somebody to not only write processes, but have your team there to be trained on process writing, the next time you go into process writing, well, for me, yeah, am I talking myself out of a job? Possibly, but maybe not. But I'm more invested in people. I'm more about building people to be the next great thing for you. And so invest in your people. Consider bringing somebody to not only come write process for you, but maybe train, develop, facilitate your team in writing processes. So maybe in adjusting on processes, you've decided, whoa, okay, so we don't have processes. Or maybe you have processes and you've assessed that they're not working. That's okay. We don't get better unless we figure out it's not working. So you may do adjustments and processes by either identifying that you don't have them and you need them, or that you have them and they're not working, or that you have them, they're working, but they need some changes because the climate has changed, the culture has changed, the industry has changed because industries evolve and they grow. Technology has changed. And in those things, you probably have to tweak. So again, if I'm using church environments, because I've been doing a lot of work there lately, say you had to go virtual. Okay, so first you probably figured out I don't have a process, because this was most churches, unfortunately. I don't have a process for being virtual. What does it even look like? What does that take? So they had to kind of go into process writing mode. And fun fact, sometimes you don't have to write a process. It may exist somewhere. This is where partnerships are amazing and knowing other people are amazing, because if you're in the same industry, chances are somebody in your industry already has what you're looking for. And so you may be able to find a template of some sort or a guide and just tweak that guide as opposed to starting from complete scratch. I absolutely believe in working smarter, not harder. Okay. So, but take the church, and moving to this virtual environment, people had to figure out processes for that, right? And okay, well, how do we do that? And what do we do? And okay, now that we've figured out we've got to adjust, we're going to write a process, we're going to do this. And so real time adjustments. And so do that. That's totally doable. Last but not least, and I think sometimes this is a hard one, adjusting people. And sometimes adjusting people is easy. It's easy when you don't like them. Let's just be honest. It's easy to move people you don't like, right? But adjusting people is a real thing. And it's not about, and this requires a level of maturation in corporate America and non-corporate environments. It's not about whether I like you as a person or not. Sometimes we take it very personal. And one of my learning and development environments, our facilitator handed out Q-tips to everybody, and that was supposed to be our reminder everywhere we went to quit taking it personal. Just every time you look at your Q-tip, remind yourself to quit taking it personal. So sometimes when we're making people adjustments, we've got to not make it about our personal relationship. Like I'm her, that we can have a conversation at work. Even if I have to let you go, I've got to demote you, I've got to change where you are, whatever. I'm not going to take it personal. I'm going to do what's best for the organization and what's best for you as a person. And then we can still go have, tea and crumpets. and I'm not upset, right? So we've got to be okay with adjusting people and not keep people in places based on personal relationships. The fastest way to destroy an organization, fastest way to destroy your nonprofit, your personal business, entrepreneurs, even if you have a Fortune 500 publicly traded company, one of the fastest ways to bring down an organization is not to make the adjustments you need to make when you need to make them based on personal relationships. If it's not working, it's just not working. But you won't know if it's not working if you don't have the process, okay? 12:39, got to keep moving. All right, so adjust people as needed. And be okay with that. I've got to stress that because sometimes we take it personal, but be okay with that. And the reason why I'm going to tell you to be okay with that is I'm going to dip really quickly into a financial conversation, and then I'm going to look to see if we have any questions, and then we're going to get out of here for your lunch and learn. And I hope you've had as much fun as I have going through this. But when it comes to making people adjustments, here's the thing. So there are certain people that you have that you pay a certain salary because of the skill set and the acumen they bring to the table. Those people are not the kind of people that you micromanage. Sometimes we're making people adjustments. I want us to think about this when we're making people adjustments. Sometimes our people adjustments are not just employees. They may be supervisors or manager types. Um, because maybe in our processes, we didn't, if for this particular role, you need this type of employee or this type of person, and that type of person, you pay a certain kind of dollar amount for them to come in with a certain kind of skill set and acumen, and you give them, you tell them what you're looking for, and then they go. There's a difference between the employee that you have to tell something and they go, and the employee that you have to teach. I'm all for teaching. Absolutely love teaching. Here for it. Believe in it. Believe in everybody should be teachable. Everybody has something to learn. But when it comes to your salaries and how you adjust people, those are two different things. So this is why I'm bringing money into the conversation. Generally, you do not hire a six-figure employee for you to have to teach them. Yep. That's true. You generally do not hire the six-figure employee for you to have to teach them. You hire them for you to tell them what you're looking for or what you need, and they go. You paid for their skill set. You paid for their mind. You paid for their acumen. You paid for them to go teach people, right? So those are the ones you tell. But then there are employees that you have to teach. And again, those are okay. And don't feel any type of way of being the employee that has to be the one that has to be taught because you don't know. I want to learn. I want to grow. But if I'm the employee that you've got to teach this position and you've got to do a lot of cultivation, my pay is going to match cultivation. My pay is going to match that. I see potential. You have some minimal skills or some basic skills that I need, and we're going to develop those skills. Okay, well, your pay looks a lot different, and that's okay, because ultimately the goal is that I cultivate you and I develop you in such a way that you become the six-figure employee, right? And now you are teaching people. I taught you. Now I get to tell you, and you get to go teach people. So you're building people. You're creating career paths, but your finances should match that. So when we talk, that's just an idea of some of the people adjustments we have to make. That when we start talking about salary caps, when we start talking about who gets paid what, we're paying you based on a skill, based on the necessary development. We're going to put you in a leadership structure. This is where processes matter. We're going to put you in a leadership structure where either you can work independent because that's the kind of employee you are and that's the kind of employee we're paying you to be, or we're going to put you in an environment that has a lot more oversight with a micromanagement type leadership because that's the environment you need to be in for now to be cultivated or whatever. All of that's okay. That's somewhere between making the necessary adjustments in your processes and your people. All right? Got that out. So there's no success that is a set it and forget it. You've got to constantly do assessments. You've got to constantly do adjustments, real time, regular stuff. Do it timely, do it thoroughly, but do it thoughtfully. There is a person on the other end of these conversations. You'll notice on this last slide, I have accountability. Accountability matters. Accountability are the things that hold us together. If I'm on a project and there's no accountability, we're not going to get much done because there's no one driving that ship. There has to be a person driving that ship to make sure we get to where we need to go, that everybody's doing what they need to do. And if we have people that are not doing what they need to do, that we adjust those people. If we have processes that are not working, adjust the process first, then adjust the people. But if you're not constantly in assessments and adjustments, you'll find yourself derailed quickly. I mean, really quickly. All right? So that's assessments and adjustments. There is in every line item of project management, I literally could spend hours. That's just the way my mind works and kind of getting into the weeds, but I don't want to do that here. That's what people hire me for. But so now that we've gotten that out of the way, I'll let my team tell me if we have any questions or anything like that while they're working on that. Let me give you some things that are coming up, how you reach me, how you get me, how you hire me, all of those things. So first, let me talk about what we call Space for Grace. It's my heart. I absolutely love when we came up with the idea for Space for Grace. Space for Grace is the side of our organization where I find and I get investors and partners and people who absolutely love what we do at Grace Applied and project management and project coordination and all of that. And they help me go do it for people who can't afford those kinds of services. Generally, that's going to be a nonprofit or even some of our church environments where they can't afford to hire someone like me to come in. Space for Grace allows for me to render services free to those organizations, but paid for by investors and partners of Grace Applied, where they basically pay somebody else's invoice, is what Space for Grace does. And I absolutely love it. So I think it's important to give testimonials so that people who have invested in Space for Grace know what we're doing and how we get there and all that happens. So with Space for Grace, on Space for Grace, one of the churches, one of the things that keeps me going with Space for Grace is one of the churches that we've been able to help. It's so cool to hear people say, so I started talking to my leadership team about planning 2022, or I started talking to my deacon board about whatever. And I told them I got a project manager and we're going to do this. When I say you want to watch me light up, it is the coolest thing to hear people that previously never gave thought to how we're going to do this, never gave thought to structure and strategy and rallying their team and giving tasks and assignments in a formalized fashion that builds momentum. And to hear that, OMG, it makes me say, hey, this is pretty cool. And we have something super special here. And so that being said, I have the awesome privilege of helping churches that are starting over. Right now, when it comes to the pandemic, and churches that are learning to reimagine church, right? What does it look like now and how do I do it here? And the fact that I get to go into some of those spaces and start building org charts and start working on job descriptions and okay, let's put this together. What do you guys, where are you now? How many people do you have now? Because I do believe in not necessarily counting people, but making people count, right? So come here, small business, come here, small business owner, come here, new entrepreneur, you just started your business and you are the team. Don't be discouraged in that. Don't count people, make the people count. Even in a virtual environment, sometimes we can get discouraged by the number of likes or the number of views or how many people are watching. Don't get discouraged in those things. Just take it one day at a time, right? And be proud of what you do and count the people. Don't count the people, but make them count, meaning whoever you have, give them valuable, meaningful tasks that they can do and or take the time to develop them to do more and make it work. You can do it. There's no environment that I've gone in when, oh, we can't do nothing with this. People are able to do different things. All right. So that's Space for Grace. So on the screen, you'll see our Cash App and some other things about Space for Grace. And then last but not least, to hire me. So to hire me, you get to reach me a few different ways. I am Grace Applied on all platforms. So I'm Grace Applied on YouTube. I'm Grace Applied on Facebook. I'm Grace Applied on IG or Instagram. If you don't know what IG is, I love you still. All right. My email address is mygraceapplied@gmail.com. So all of that stuff is there. You can set up a consultation for us to figure out what you need and how we get you there, all that good stuff. I got fussed at last time for not telling y'all that. So thanks to everybody that's offered feedback. Let me say that. I couldn't do this without you. So thanks to everybody that's offered feedback, that has said they were blessed and their businesses are better for watching our first Lunch and Learn. If there are topics you guys want me to cover, Again, they will always be high level. I can't give you everything in an hour, right? So they'll always be high level, but if there are things you want me to talk about, even something as simple as, and believe it or not, people don't always know how to do a staff meeting. What do you do in a staff meeting? Why should you have an agenda? How long should they last? You know, all of those kind of things. There may be things you just, Dawn, help me refine this area as a leader, as a business owner, as a supervisor of my team. This applies everywhere. Even if you're managing a team in a call center, okay, Dawn, how do I be a better supervisor to my team? How do I get more out of them on these calls and things like that? All of that's invest in yourself, invest in being a better leader and all of that. All right, so that's how you reach me and all of that. There's a question and I can't see it. I don't know where it is, but I was told there's a question, so I'm gonna wait, and then they're gonna tell me what the question is, so I can try to answer it before we got to get out of here. All right, guys. So hang on. It's gonna come up somewhere. Okay. So how do you know when to try when it's time to try something else? Great question. Great question. So that goes into purpose assessment, more so than process and people assessment. If we lose our why, or if our why is accomplished, that's going to be the starting place on when we know it's time to do something else. Um, and let me say this about nonprofits and even in the church realm, because it can get touchy here when it comes to faith-based organizations and do we have the faith that we need. Um, the kingdom is not diminished or devalued because you have to close the doors of a local church in a specific space. And the reason why I say that is one, God is vast and he's going to accomplish his purpose in the earth. That's one. But two, where you planted your church, the location and all of that may not be ideal. It may not be time, right? It may be the wrong timing. It may be the wrong season. It may be the wrong place. It may be a few different things. It may need more planning. It's where I come in. It may need a, hey, let's reel this back in and let's relaunch in a year because there's some planning things we need to do behind the scenes. There's some teams we need to build and need to have in place before we go live again. So let's kind of reel this back in and spend the next year developing this core team, developing our processes, developing our why, right? So sometimes knowing when it's time, it's based on a few different things. That can be that's not cookie cutter. Let me say that too. It's not cookie cutter. It really is sitting with your why, your purpose, your projections, and what are the things that are even making you say, I don't think this is it. Failure cannot be the only reason you're saying, I don't think this is it. Finances cannot be the only reason that you're saying, I don't think this is it. Because there is no successful person, and hear me when I say this, no successful person that has ever not experienced failure and not experienced financial difficulty while on their way to pursuing their business and developing whatever platform and purpose they were working on. You can name the top 5 companies in the world, and I'm going to tell you they experienced failure, they experienced financial difficulty along the way. So if those are your indicators that it's not working, those are not holistically conclusive. I'll tell you one of your largest indicators is going to be people, because people are your greatest asset. And so people support and things like that are going to be important to that. So there's that question. All right. When and how often should assessment happen? Great question. Okay, so that goes back to, I won't pull the slides up again and all of that. That goes back to the timeliness. Depending on what it is, it really depends on the project and depending on how it's going. And when I say that, if I have a project that is only 3 months, then our check-in is going to be a lot more frequent. Our assessments are going to be a lot more frequent than a project that I got 2 years to do. We may be checking in quarterly, and then as we get closer, depending on our objectives, more regularly. So when would be your regularly scheduled meetings, Of course, I do believe in the along the way. So whether we are kind of having lunch or traveling, and then we're just kind of going down the corridors of the airport, and I'm with my team, and we're just kind of spitballing. Some great synergy and thoughts come out of that. And somebody goes, "Hey, put that in your phone. We'll come back to that in our next team meeting." All right. So those are often places to do assessments and to not for adjustments, but assessments. But assessments and adjustments should be done based on your project. You're going to set those based on your project. That should be built into your project plan, says the project manager, right? They should be built into your project plan on how frequently we're going to assess where we are. So, for example, I'm on a team and we have an event that is happening in October, right? And so we are meeting weekly. We're meeting weekly, but trust me, we have communications going on every day at this point because we are within that 45-day window to go day. So we're talking daily. We're assessing daily. Where are we? Do we have what we need? Are we behind schedule? If we're behind schedule, who do we need to apply pressure with? So those assessments for us are happening real time as we assess registrations and how many people have booked their hotels and kind of where we are. Are we on track? So again, it's going to be based on the project, how much time you have when the project is due, if there are long-term goals. So for example, I keep using church. Church happens every week. Services happen every week. So assessments and adjustments there are weekly, real time. They should be done in your weekly debriefings, staff meetings, team meetings, whatever you call them. If it's a church event, right after the church event, no more than 7 days, preferably within 72 hours. There's some sort of debriefing where we have a quick, while it's fresh in our minds, what went well, what didn't go well, what can we change. And even if we schedule another full debriefing, but to at least do a brain dump beyond the, oh, it felt great and we all had a wonderful time, do a quick brain dump on some things that we may need to come back and look at. And then in our next regular meeting, talk about those processes and things like that. So that would be that. All right. I got 4 minutes, people, and I got to get out of here. Again, to reach me, that's mygraceapplied@gmail.com. It's been a lot of fun. If you have questions, feel free to email those questions, and we'll get those taken care of for you. Thanks for those that chose to rock with me today. I've had fun. Still nervous. I don't think my nerves have settled yet, but still nervous. But project planning and project management is my heart. It's what wakes me up. It's sometimes what keeps me up at night because I believe in projects. I believe in people's purpose. Let me say it that way. I believe in what people set out to do. And if you have buy-in, I think I'll close with that. If you have buy-in, that makes all the difference in the world. I explained it to a church leader the other day like this. If somebody's in love, you don't have to tell them to call. You don't have to tell them to buy gifts or to be present or to give. You don't have to beg and pull and plead with them to do anything. Why? Because their heart is in it. They wake up thinking about it. They go to bed thinking about it. They're looking for every opportunity to express that love because it's in their heart. And so in the same vein, now I know that there are hormones that are involved in that, right? And there are all kinds of dopamines and chemical things that happen in your body when you're, ooh. But the concept is there. When your heart is in something, when you bought into it lock, stock, and barrel, when you are invested, then you will do the things that will make sure that it stays what you want it to be. You'll do the assessments. You'll make the adjustments. You'll do project management. If that's not your skill, you'll bring somebody in who can because it matters. And you want to take care of your people. You want to properly manage your people and your resources because one of the worst things you can do is mismanage a resource, a people resource. Because sometimes you can get them back. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes you can fix it. Sometimes you can't. And sometimes that's a hard lesson to be learned by a leader that I had an amazing resource and I mismanaged it while I had it. And now I don't have it anymore. And you kind of learn from that. It's okay. It happens and it's okay and you move on. So that's that. Guys, it's been fun. I think my hour's up. Yes, my hour's up. I love you guys. Till the next time. Bye.